All right, let's start off in the East, where we have Pittsburgh taking on Rhode Island. And we've seen this matchup 3 times this year. Rhode Island only getting one of those wins, but it came in a Jägermeister Cup where it really mattered. This was before Pittsburgh was eliminated, so they were both going for it. But since then, Pittsburgh has changed coaches, and they are still as defensively solid as ever, but they do refuse to just score. Meanwhile, Rhode Island has discovered that Albert Dequa, hey, maybe he's still good at this goal scoring thing. Bring him in as a super sub. We'll see how it works. This is going to be a defensive battle. Are we going to see two teams kind of shut up shop for 120 minutes and ride it all the way to PKs where you trust Dick and Vegas to do this in PKs? Or do we weirdly see both teams go at each other because they know the other defense is so strong? How are we kind of feeling here?
I think the weird thing with both of these clubs is that they aren't parking the bus, even if the results have been pretty light on goals. Like Pittsburgh lives in the final third. They counterpress so aggressively. It's easy to think, oh, it's the club Bob Lilly built. It's all defense. They're really slick with the ball these days. And that's probably a credit to Rob Vincent and his ability to just get a little bit of a different flavor out of the midfield in particular. And Rhode Island, once Dequa came onto the pitch, you really saw the vision. And it is what it is with the final goal that he scores, passing the ball into the net from 50 yards out. But the process up to that point, the ability to get into the final third, stop North Carolina from doing anything they wanted to do last week, they're suffocating, but they are positive, which I think means this will be a fun game to watch, not a classic defensive slog. Who that benefits, we'll get into, but it's an interesting tactical matchup to consider.
I feel nuts trying to predict this one, I'll be honest. Yeah. Just because, like, when you consider the history of it all, yes, there's a lot of ins and outs from a tactical perspective, and yet, like, why is Rhode Island still here? Like, they were not, like, this is all clicking very recently for Rhode Island, it feels like. The flashes were there throughout the season, but they haven't looked as good as they've looked in the playoffs, like, basically all season. And here they are. So it's hard to even count Rhode Island, out in any way, even having to go into Highmark, just because it feels like it's happening again. Like, I don't know what it is about this Rhode Island side once the fall weather kicks in, but fall in New England is, I don't know, there's something in the air.
I mean, this is a Rhode Island team making their second consecutive appearance in the Eastern Conference final. And, like, they would be the first team since Tampa Bay did it back-to-back 20 and 21 to win the East 2 years in a row.
Well, you kind of mentioned, Phil, that this is a Rhode Island team who hadn't quite figured it out. I think I personally disagree, because I feel like their defense has been rock solid all year long. They've just been incredibly negative going forward. Meanwhile, versus Charleston especially, I saw someone like a Bacharach get more involved in the attack, kind of filling out the top of the box, making dangerous chances. Did it result in goals? No. But it was more positive. We've seen defensive solidity all year long from Rhode Island, and they were able to get draws, maybe lose a match 1-0 here and there, but they never really had the big blow-up game, but they never really got the goals. But that kind of play is what can make a playoff run. I mean, heck, a few years ago when we talked about Pittsburgh versus Detroit, we all said Detroit has a chance to upset this Pittsburgh team because they are built defensively and they have just enough flash in the pan going forward to be dangerous. Well, those Detroit teams did not have J.J. Williams up top. They did not have a Noah Fuson, and now a Quizera who's going to be back from red card suspension. They didn't have those kind of players that can go forward and be that dangerous. Oh yeah, Albert Deke was on the bench. This is an extremely dangerous team on paper, and defensively, they are going to be rock solid as they have been all year long.
Yeah, and you're right to mention Hugo Bacharach specifically and the way that Rhode Island has set up this midfield, because they weren't far off from being that complete team in the regular season. The defense was always dominant. They always had the field tilt. In terms of territory, they were what you wanted to see if you're Connor Smith. And then it was just a little bit of connectivity through the midfield, not enough running up top. The way that they've rebalanced for this playoff run, using Holstad as this kind of right winger, kind of number 8, Shapiro Thompson drifting up at wingback, but he's not like a true wingback. You've got Bacharach doing his thing in the midfield. It's a little bit wonky on paper, but the way it comes together just supports how everyone wants to move. The connections have been strong. Again, only been 2 goals in the 2 games, but it feels like this team makes more sense when you watch them play. Meanwhile, Pittsburgh, kind of a similar story, right? Augie Williams up top isn't giving them what they need, but everything behind him is looking so slick these days. Griffin, Mertz, Etu up that left side is so hard to stop. It, again, to echo Phil, like the similarity between these 2 teams and trying to parse how this is going to play out, really difficult.
I mean, you talk about Augie Williams. He is one needless shove away from sending Pittsburgh through in regular time. I mean, It was just a pointless foul before scoring that he did not have to do. It's not like the shove gave him position. He was already there. It feels like someone like Augie Williams, who is known for being one of the best strikers that this league has ever seen, is really pressing. He is really trying really hard, and at times has been detrimental, where he tries so hard that it literally cost him a goal. So I'm going to be really interested to see what he does in this match, especially if they were to come up into the 80th minute. It's 0-0. Is Augie going to try to do something special? Meanwhile, someone that we've been raving about since before the trip up to Portland, but then we took a long time during the Portland match to circle him. Look at Charles All. There was moments. There was the dispossession at the beginning of the second half. Ball falls to him. He hits it off the bounce, and Bout curls one in. He is dangerous, and he has audacity to try things as someone who, what is he? Is he 20 years old, younger? You would not think that he would be doing that. Just became a professional really this year, and yet he's doing it. He's a great complement to a Mertz on that left side that you talked about already. You're seeing 2 players in Mertz and All and Junior A2 who can support Augie Williams, that if he just decides to kind of drop deep, become that central presence, play the ball off to them, he doesn't need to be the one to score because he can still contribute in the goals if he needs to. But this Pittsburgh team has just not shown that they can score in regular time.
Yeah, and I think this goes back. I should have clarified my criticism of Rhode Island to be clicking offensively, because, I mean, 28 goals conceded all season. Incredible. 28 goals scored all season. Woof. And the only 2 teams that scored less than Rhode Island this season, Monterey Bay and Vegas. So, like, that's it. End of list. So, but only like 3 spots up the goal scoring charts is Pittsburgh. So, like, will either of these teams get it done? I don't know. 14 clean sheets apiece, level with Louisville for most in the league for both of these teams. This has 0-0 written all over it for me. I don't know.
Before we get to predictions, can I ask you guys my clickbaity, super unfair question?
Please.
Of course.
This is Pittsburgh's first ever appearance in the conference final, and it comes with Vincent at charge. That legitimately, does this damage Bob Lilly's legacy?
To say it damages the legacy would not be correct, because what Bob Lilly has done up to this point between Rochester and Pittsburgh is unassailable. Does it reflect poorly on the last 3 years of Bob Lilly and not hurt the overarching thing? Probably. Like the fact that Lilly couldn't take that Player Shield team and get them past Detroit, and we saw pretty mediocre returns last year. And now Rob Vincent comes in and makes real changes. I think that's why there is this question being valid, right? The way the midfield sets itself up, the freedom of the center backs to underlap, the patterns in the final third, those all feel like pretty meaningful innovations that Bob Lilly just wasn't taking advantage of. So I'm going to say no, but in terms of like the recent way that we're judging Bob Lilly, maybe.
Yes. No. No, I think John's got the right angle here. That
Like,
being said,
he might have lost his touch is
Yeah.
the answer, but it doesn't harm the legacy.
Yeah, for sure. And I think you can certainly say that Pittsburgh probably, could, and certainly in the Player Shield year should have done quite a bit more in the playoffs. And is there a little bit of the live by the sword, die by the sword of like, you can play cautious, and when you're like far the better team, sometimes you're going to get burned by inferior opposition at your own game. So yeah, it's a bit of a weird one, but yeah, tend to agree that he's just didn't get enough done over the last 3 years. But I mean, he's still Bob Lilly.
Yeah, I mean, that's knockout soccer for you. I mean, we've seen what Louisville's done over the past few years, and we're still at least waiting on them to win another league title since at least over 5 years.
Yeah, and Cruz is washed, obviously.
Cruz out, Lilly in. Duh.
Cruz out, Lilly in, Pierman out. What other clickbait can we?
Frank Yallop in.
Wilmer
in.
Wilmer in.
I mean, this is Liverpool Europa League winning Bob Lilly that we're talking about.
Well, how about we predict this one? John, who you got?
1-0 Rhode Island.
Alex?
Let's roll with a 0-0 to penalty kicks. Pittsburgh.
Ryan?
It would be like incredibly uncanny for Pittsburgh to have a fourth consecutive 0-0. And I just have to think that we see a goal in this one. Like, we've not seen an Eastern Conference final be 0-0. So Pittsburgh 1-0.
Phil?
I'm going 0-0. And I'll say in the Vegas Dick matchup, that Koke gets better and Rhode Island advanced to a second consecutive final.
Something to be notable here. Pittsburgh is looking to break their attendance record again and is allegedly going to be pushing way past their capacity, which did they run that by the fire marshal? I don't know. I'm not a cop. But it's going to be fascinating what that atmosphere is going to be like. It feels like there might be a moment of Highmark itself basically creating a goal. So I will be interested to see how it's going to go. I'm going to take Pittsburgh in extra time. I don't love it, but I am going to go with Vegas extra time. Highmark essentially gets the goal. So let's go ahead, go out west, where the finals are going to go out west no matter what. If Tulsa wins, One Oak is going to have it. If it is New Mexico that wins, it is going to be at the Lab. And no matter what, we will have a ball field out west past the Mississippi final. And it's going to be a good one. I mean, both atmospheres have been absolutely incredible and absolutely deserve to be shown off, even if it's on a baseball field. So that one's going to be fun. This is in of itself. This one's going to be at One Oak Field, where they're going to be pushing an even higher attendance mark than they just did. It's going to be a lot of fun. Tulsa absolutely dominated this one in the regular season. But are we going to be able to see New Mexico, who has a new level of confidence that we haven't seen for a long time? with this team. Are we going to be able to see them move forward and ignore the formation that's on the screen? I forgot to edit that for New Mexico. The formation's right, not the numbers. Ignore the numbers.
Yeah, you're right to point out the atmosphere at 1OK Field as well. The fact that we've got 2 conference finals and frankly a League One championship game where all 3 teams might set their attendance record, that's awesome. That's exactly what the USL wants in these situations. In this game in particular, you can feel Tulsa feed off that home crowd, use that narrow pitch to their advantage every single time they play. It's going to be very useful for them in this matchup as well. A lot of why New Mexico has improved over the last, let's say 2 months or so, has been the use of the wide areas, that ability to evolve beyond classic short passing up the middle, Dennis Sanchez soccer, and get Dayon Harris and Akale touches in transition. Tulsa is built shape-wise and stadium-wise to not let that happen. I'm curious to see what it looks like for Tulsa. We had this discussion in the Discord of, is it going to be 5-4-1 like they did against Phoenix? Are they going to go back to a back 4? That'll matter a lot. Like, if Dylan Pierre can fill the space between the lines and stop New Mexico from doing what they do best, that'll be gigantic for Tulsa.
Of the matchups, like, obviously there's a lot to love about all of the soccer that's going to be played this weekend. And of the matchups, this is the one that has the vibe of like a genuine sort of like box office heavyweight sort of fight about it. Tulsa has not been, lighting things up. I think it's safe to say, like in the playoffs. Not in the way that they certainly did in the regular season, especially given some of the results on the screen, like, where they beat this New Mexico team 5-2. This is very much not that New Mexico team. So I do think that this is going to be a very, very tough matchup. That being said, like, I think there is a genuine chance that there are fireworks because both of these teams have the ability to really break out. I think there will be some caginess as you'd expect in any conference final, but this is the one that feels like the marquee matchup and just feels like a genuine big fight, and I'm just really excited to see what these teams can do. As much as it pains me that 2 other Western Conference teams are sort of the marquee matchup, but yeah, this is an exciting one.
I mean, New Mexico is entering this match having scored multiple goals in each of their last 5 games. They've scored a goal in each of their last 9 games, but it was Tulsa who was the last team to shut out New Mexico. If we're looking at Tulsa's side, they haven't allowed a goal in 5 hours and haven't allowed a goal at home in nearly the Hobbit trilogy length and duration. That this is still an incredibly difficult place to go into for a road team to get a result. And especially when you have the backing of the crowd that Tulsa is going to have for this game. And especially knowing that the winner of this match not only will host the Cup final, you're looking at the last 4 league champions have all come from the Western Conference as well.
The one last thing that I will say is that Tulsa, despite the fact that they, win the conference regular season and get the top seed and all that, I think there's probably an argument to be made that New Mexico in 3rd probably got the easiest route to the, like, on form, probably got the easiest route. No offense to OC, offense to San Antonio. Well,
I will say San Antonio is the only team in the entirety of the USL playoffs that didn't want to show up. That's what I'll say about that.
Yeah. So I do think that there is something to be said for the fact that Tulsa having to go through this Phoenix, like this edition of Phoenix, was no small feat, and obviously they left it extremely late. And I did just want to say, I know I put this on Twitter, but I did want to give Alex the credit of he called the Lukic late winner like almost exactly,
literally at the death.
Like that was
like they blew the whistle after he won, after he scored that goal.
Yeah. As I was watching, like, it was one of those moments where I was like, oh my God, this is crazy. And then I was like, wait, I had like a moment of like, wait a minute, we talked about this. So credit to Alex. He's the Nostradamus.
I gotta
Well, I'm
pick
looking.
my
Go ahead.
my former League One players, and it was a safe bet too. He did it the week before, this is not and he's done it. I think 6 times this season. He's scored the winning goal.
Yeah,
Off the
6
bench.
substitute goals for him. Yeah.
Insane.
He is a super sub.
So I'm assuming you've got a Kale stock this week.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm looking at this New Mexico team, and I'm looking at Maples, Keller, Ryden, and Gloucester, and I'm just excited to see how they play. Honestly, that back four is probably the thing I'm most excited about watching any of the playoffs this weekend. Just what Maples has been, if I remember correctly, he was in my top 3 for Defender of the Year. I've been just super impressed with what he has done. Ryden and Keller have been rock solid. Center back Gloucester, no slouch himself. But then you look at Shakes, who's in the back line, whom I'm a little concerned about. He's a super progressive goalkeeper. He's really good with the ball at his feet. So whenever there is a pass to be made, if you can chip somebody, if you can get that line splitting pass, Shake's great. But having steady hands has not been his thing. Lots of punches, lots of parries, a couple of them leading to some dangerous opportunities last week and against Orange County. And it left me a little afraid, not quite the same safe hands as a Tambakis. And the last team, the last player I would want to spill a ball in front of would be Kalira. There's not many other players I'd be more afraid of the ball just landing at his feet, or he punches it out far enough and Weber puts in a second cross. This is a team that can absolutely punish not having safe hands in net. Meanwhile, I'm looking at Tulsa as well with Derek, where we haven't really seen him get his chance a whole lot. Peñaranda has been rock solid, but he gets called on, and he looked good. A little out of practice, of course. It took him a second to really look like he was up to match speed, but you can still see what the experience is giving you. If this ends up being the goalkeeping, just kind of goalkeeping matchup with Derek and his not Peñaranda, I'm still leaning Derek over Shakes because Shakes is just not giving me much to hold on to without just scaring me a lot.
And the worst case scenario in this game for New Mexico is Taylor Carrera bullies Keller and Ryden at center back, which I think is a real possibility. Then Tulsa spends a lot of time in the final third. They love to hit a ton of crosses. Can Shakes handle that? The jury is out. New Mexico's strength all year has been avoiding those situations, possessing the ball so much that that doesn't really become an issue. If anybody can force it to be an issue, it's FC Tulsa. So I think you're dead on to focus on Shakes as maybe the make or break player for United, frankly.
I am also just going to go ahead and get way in front of this. I am openly rooting for Tulsa so I can drive there and not have to worry about flights. So just throwing that out there. So I'm going to change my prediction.
I'll counter that and say if it's in Albuquerque, I might just go home to Phoenix more easily from there and make it an extended kind of Thanksgiving off week for myself. So in terms of dumb bias, we're even.
Any thoughts on this matchup before we get into those predictions?
Happy for Gideon Zalelum, who wonder kid once upon a time. I think this is the season where he's played the most games. He's stayed fit for once in his career. I thought that Dennis Sanchez was going to mention for the playoffs, thinking that they would need someone more defensively solid. Instead, he's leaned into what Zalelum provides. He has really driven everything that's made them tick in these past 2 games. And good to see a player get that opportunity and really shine on this stage.
Speaking of that central midfield pairing, y'all remember when Zico Bailey was a wingback? And then they just said, well, if we just tried him out in central midfield and completely revitalize his career? I feel like we don't really talk about enough that transition he made of, wait, maybe that was an insane idea, because that was really ballsy of a plan to just try him in the midfield. And boy, has it worked out for Zico Bailey. Now you talk about Zellum. and Bailey, those are two of the better center midfield pairings that you're going to find in the league right now.
And in that last game that these teams played, it was kind of a short rest deal, some injuries. Dennis Sanchez put Zico Bailey at striker just to see what gives, and he was totally fine. Like the level of trust that New Mexico has in Bailey to run the show, no matter where he is, I think speaks volumes to the player he's become.
You mentioned him at the top of this, John, when we were talking about is this going to be a 5-man back line? Is it going to be a 4-man back line? Pierre's going to be really interesting. Is he going to be a lockdown number 6 in this match and act like a third center back when they're in possession and then drop back, or go forward when they're in possession, making a 4-man and then drop back as a third center back when they're out of possession? That's going to be really interesting. How is that going to work out? I think that's another player you're going to see how he's going to float forward, because if Batista and Ian think that Pierre's going to drop in deep and he doesn't, he goes and challenges the ball in front, there might be a space in the middle. And Greg Hurst has been looking good as well. And Akale is always dangerous cutting inside. That if those 3 players of Batista, Pierre, and Ian are not completely in lockstep, especially with Pierre possibly going up and down, box to box, inside the box, that could spell trouble for Tulsa as well. So any other thoughts before we get into predictions? All right, John.
I'm struggling with this one. 2-1 New Mexico after extra time.
Alex, since you already had the script, go ahead, let us know.
Well, I'm not traveling to this one, so I am a true neutral. And I'm not going to say Stefan Luka again, but I'm not going to say it won't be. But I'm going to go 1-0 Tulsa.
Ryan?
2-1 Tulsa.
Phil?
Yeah, God. Oh man. I'm gonna go. You know what? I'm going chaos. I'm going 3-2 Tulsa after extra time, and yeah, for whatever reason, there's something captivating about the idea of some of these players from Tulsa being in a championship final. Like, of the Dams that joined the Western Conference recently, which you have predicted Owen to be the one. And then his, nearby neighbor, a fellow Kentuckian out there on the right flank for Tulsa, Lucas Stauffer, who's acquitted himself very well. So anyways, I am also obviously rooting against New Mexico for rivalry purposes. I think I'm quite transparent about that. And it's like a 3-hour difference in travel time for like flight to Albuquerque versus flight to Tulsa. So from sheer just like fatigue purposes, I am rooting for Tulsa in that way as well.
Phil, you took my prediction. I am also going Tulsa 3-2 after extra time. This one feels like box office. It's going to be a fun match, attacking. I think it's going to be an absolute blast. I wouldn't be shocked if it's 1-1 going into extra time. It just feels like one of those type of matches. Also, would not be surprised if New Mexico pulls this one out, but kind of what John mentioned of the pitch being so narrow, that I feel like someone like an Akale, like a Harris, maybe can't get the space that they were used to out at the lab. And maybe that causes a little bit of trouble, but not too much. I'm also going to go 3-2 Tulsa. All right. With all that, what about some final thoughts or final USL thoughts? Do we have any?
Sign the CBA.
Yes. On the players' terms, not just whatever the owners are throwing out at them.
Shout out to the number of like past the 120th minute goals we've had in the playoffs. It's making everything insane, and I kind of love it.
RIP North Carolina FC.
Yeah.
That happened kind of unceremoniously in the end. There was something weird about the manner of Dikwa's second goal that made it all feel a little bit like I don't know, like dark comedy. Where it was like almost too weird for how it all ended, and like some of the stories that have come out about maybe some conduct from the owner like at the game and stuff like that has just been very strange to see as well. So yeah, just feel for the fans out in Cary, and hope they'll just latch onto the courage even more, just double down, but it's not ideal.
There was something absolutely insane watching a club die while another man is recreating the Great Cornholio. There was something really bizarre about it.
That's what was so like. Yeah, I genuinely felt like I was having like a fever dream, because like the whole Rhode Island team started putting their shirts up. Like that was crazy. Obviously, huge goal, and it was a big win for Rhode Island. But yeah, weird to see a club cease to exist in that moment.
Any other USL thoughts?
Yeah, you mentioned the late goals last week. The league said that those were the two latest goals in league history.
Wow.
Daniels at 128.48 and Lukic at 121.09.